Right. Hello. We're here. It's there's it today.
Back again.
Monday, isn't it? It's a Monday.
It's a Monday after a break. Nice little time off.
Yeah. Do you want to do
So
anything fun?
Mickey went away. If anybody's wondering, Mickey went away, and I'm not going to do my own videos, so that's why there's been no content. So if you're wondering why, it's because of Mickey. There you go. It's because of Mickey.
It's entirely because
All
of me.
Mickey's fault.
Yeah, no, what did you do during your week off? Or my week off? What did you do during my week off?
Oh, what did I do? Yeah, I spent a little bit time away from the site, other than plenty of coding, still working on stuff. The builder is almost ready for its next kind of rollout thing. Also been working on the TTS export with Bartender a bit. That needs some pretty boring kind of data entry stuff to make it work properly. So that's where that's the life. That's the life that always is. Trying to make a song of Ice and Fire stats, do stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hello,
definitely.
hello to the chat.
Who
3
we got?
sales, as
We've got
always.
3 Sales and Bloodraven, right? That's Bloodraven.
And Carl K.
Carl,
I think he's kicking around
obviously.
too.
Carl doesn't go
Of
anywhere
course.
without us. Do anything without
No.
us. Right. You'll see that I'm not quite actually sitting down at the moment. I just recognised that I haven't gotten changed from work. I completely forgot. So I'm going to change my T-shirt quickly.
So Mickey's currently naked. That's great.
Basically.
Hey, we've got multiple Aussies in the house. So that's brilliant.
Yes.
Thanks for staying up, guys, or getting up super early. Not sure.
Is that
Staying
the
up late.
infamous Deoxys?
Yeah.
Big man Deoxys, our favourite person.
Song of Ice and Fire Stats After Dark. That's like, we are definitely one week gonna do
An OnlyFans channel?
Troy and Abed in the morning nights. A community reference to anybody that doesn't know.
Great show. Right then.
Are we ready? Are we ready yet, Mickey? What are we going to talk about? Come on, mate.
The first topic today, I believe, is the hype. Hashtag B is better.
Yeah.
Is this thing called the codename TSL?
TSL. Team Super League.
That Team Super League Go, where we all like transform and like merge into a big transformery thing and multiple arms. Go on. What's the?
They say you're a bit quiet, Mickey. You need to turn your volume up.
I'll turn myself up.
If you can get to a computer. All right. So Team Super League. I think we are 1 week away from the start of the first round. Obviously, for those who don't know, put together by George, 3 Sales Gaming. There are 18 teams of 4 players. Me and Mickey are both in the tournament. We are part of Team Humble Onion Smugglers, obviously dedicated to the great man who is Davos and also Stannis himself. And we are in League B. We're in League B. So those who don't know, the league is split into an A and a B of equal strength and randomly drawn. So if you're wondering where to watch all the best play, it's definitely in B League.
Definitely. That is the best league, right? I've heard that it's better than all the other leagues.
I think, at a guess from what I've looked at, I think the leagues are both actually really quite equal. I think there are some big names in both leagues, some really strong teams. So I'm super interested for the interleague divisional matches. Not that it really matters, but it does. It's super interesting way of doing it. And all right, I'm ready to see where we end up, because I don't know. I don't know. A lot of good players in that tournament.
I think, for what it's worth, I think you're wrong. I think the teams, the different areas, are not equally skilled. I think that one of the leagues is just infinitely better than the other.
Infinitely, yeah.
And I'm not going to say which one. But
there's a hashtag on screen right now.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
No, actually joking aside, I do think the league's pretty good. I've looked through a lot of the lists. I did a very brief stats thing for the community when it all went wide, on something we'll talk about later on. Yeah, it's looking good. It's really interesting to see. Actually, Makisa, Michael Kerr, he's in chat today. Northern Front.
Yep.
He's did some stats as well, doing off the rankings. And he was saying like the top 4 teams are basically the same ranking points,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
That.
brilliant. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
It's good. It's good to see. So even though one of the teams is effectively made up of like international all stars, there are still plenty of other really strong players out there coming together, either with their local gaming group, people that they know. All teams have come together in all different ways, and yet the ranking difference between the top teams is very, very small. So that's super great.
yeah.
And yeah, to Anders, I believe that there are some games getting streamed next Sunday already as almost like a preview, but that's when the round fully gets announced. If you want to see, there's a ton of stuff on the Song of Ice and Fire Guild. There is a page there which will show you more information about the teams and stuff like that.
I'll whip that
And
up.
what the first week and onwards, what the matchups will be.
I'll whip that up on screen for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah.
We're obviously Song of Ice and Fire Stats is part of the guild, and in order to help George out, we thought we would host all of the stuff on here. So if we go to the fixtures list, right one I think. So you can go into here and see all the fixtures for each week. You can scan through and look at all of the different weeks. So 9 weeks in total, and you can also
We
go
have
to
the humble onion smugglers have been matched up against Go Big or Go Home in the first week. So we're gonna play, if you don't know, that's Ben from Blitz Minis and other people that from his, I believe, from his local group. He has quite a good competitive group over there. So I hope to get paired up against Ben. I've wanted to have a game against Ben for a while, so we'll see what happens.
I think it'll be good. I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. I think it's gonna be good because it means you're probably unlikely gonna have to face the same thing every round, which is always a positive. I don't like having to face, and it's not actually just Starks, right? It's not just Starks. It's just playing the same kinds of factions over and over again, the same kinds of lists. So yeah, it needs to be good.
Speaking of which, I see. I didn't even really. I just thought he was a strong pick, but it seems that I've created the meme list of the tournament, which is triple conscripts with a senior builder playing in amongst a pretty defensive Night's Watch list in with a war machine and some crossbowmen. So we'll see how that one does. I have to say, it's all theoretical. It's all something that I kind of put together in my head. My team constantly asked me, hey, do you want to like go and test your list? Shall we play some practice games against it? And I'm like, nah, it will be fine. It will be great. This, of course, I barely ever play Night's Watch. I mean, I have physically played Night's Watch, but only once or twice. So we really will see how this goes. I probably am going to end up looking like an idiot.
It's fine because I led the rest of our team, Carlo, on a merry goose chase, and I said, "Oh yeah, let's think about this Mance list. Let's think about this Mance list," and then trolled them all by entering a Tormund list. So yeah.
Yeah, Mickey loves Tormund for some reason.
I do.
I can't.
It's because you're wrong.
Everyone knows it's free throw. Play double harmer, double harmer. Come on, double down on that harmer.
I'm not about that double life. I'm not about playing two commanders twice.
And
I
yeah,
think
to
it
be
lowers
honest,
your
I
options.
hadn't even thought I might have to play free folk who have eagles, and we'll just ignore all of them. So
Oh, you just got trolled.
we'll
Well,
see.
you take your second less.
We'll see. Anyway,
yes,
I'm sure it'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be another great chance to play some games against some more people.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's interesting that it basically enforces a bit of a factional balance. It's great that it gets people together talking about strategies coming into the games. They can help each other prepare for the games. Hopefully that will help bring some people along who are like teamed up with more experienced players than themselves. And hopefully it's just a whole more community spirit than in like an individual tournament.
And I think it's I'm actually what I'm really excited for, and I don't know if he's in chat today, but I'm really excited for the Fantasy League, right?
Yeah. Me too.
Mainly, this is a personal note. I know the Fantasy League in general is going to be good, but there is a guy who I believe is named Sir Davy Onions. Is that right? If I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
I recognize that name.
Yeah, and he is in the Fantasy League, and the big man, of course, wants to select as many humble onion smugglers as he can because we're amazing. It's got nothing to do
Yeah,
with the theme of our team
obviously.
whatsoever.
I think actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I think he might only be allowed to pick one from each. But yes, as 3 Sales is saying right now, the draft of the Fantasy League will be live on Saturday. So yeah, and yeah, 3 Sales just said he can only have one from each team. You're only allowed one player from each faction, and you're only allowed one player from each team. So it will actually make for some interesting picks.
I'm done.
But I mean, like, obviously, nobody in the tournament is running a better Night's Watch list than me. So I'm pretty sure I'll be number one selection. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, come on. It's me or Brett. Oh, come on now. Brett, not like Brett's ever won anything with Night's Watch. Gen Con 2019.
Who's this Brett guy anyway? I've never heard of him. Anyway.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the fantasy. I wish I was in the fantasy and not in the real league.
Only because you can't be bothered playing the game anymore.
Because I like talking about the theoretical side of the game more than I like actually putting it into practice. Ooh, and yes, Greg, I did throw some shade at Gen Con or the tournament that was run the other day. Yes, I was probably quite harsh in my wording. If I offended anybody, that's not what I meant to do. But you know, hey, I don't have a filter.
I think
normally Mickey's the filter, and he didn't filter it out.
No, I honestly I listened to it and I did filter some stuff. But it wasn't the worst.
Can you believe that's not the worst things I said?
I actually didn't take out anything worse than what he'd said. And to be fair, what he said wasn't that bad, I don't think.
I probably just said it 5 times over. I just kept repeating it. That's generally what happens.
I definitely think, like, I mean, just harking back to it, I think the tournament we talked about it with Brett anyway. I think the tournament they ran was absolutely brilliant. I think the actual tournament itself was fantastic, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And Family Time Games out there, absolutely smashing it in terms of providing a quality experience to players, be them new, old, experienced, inexperienced, good, bad. They provide the spectrum. Can't fault.
Whatever it is, I think that a 22-player tournament in physical person right now is going to be one of the biggest events that we have for the rest of the year. Like, maybe things will come around in another 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. But as far as tournaments go, outside of TTS, that was one of the biggest tournaments we're going to have.
Definitely.
I still don't, think that it's right to say that it was Gen Con, only because that happened kind of after the fact. But point is, great tournament, great start to the event. And kind of, it's unfortunate that that's the best we can do. But, well, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, should we talk about it? Is that what we're moving on to?
Well, no, we're going to move on to something else in relation to Team Super League.
Okay.
Team Super League, Maestro, the commissioner of all this, as he calls himself. I think he's more of an orchestrator. But George from 3 Sales, we had him on a couple weeks ago. He was building a bit of hype up. He came on here, built a bit of hype up, try and get people to fill.
Just in case he needed more entries to the tournament, which he absolutely already didn't need because he'd already overfilled the tournament.
Like 24 hours.
Yeah.
But so what he said, he decided that the mountain that rides is allowed in the tournament, right? He said, well, not the mountain that rides. Kickstarter exclusives.
There's no difference. It means the same thing, Mickey.
Yeah, anyone who's not seen our stuff before, Kickstarter exclusive is Mountain That Rides. Yes, Brendan Outrider, who, by the way, makes an appearance. Brendan Outrider appears.
I'd guess one, right?
Yeah, one.
I haven't looked.
Outrider Commander.
Yeah. There's always one. It's literally there's always one. There's always one Outrider Commander but there's never a Maeve Mormont and there's never a Mame Jamie.
Sadness.
That's Kickstarter exclusives for you.
Yeah.
Whenever you allow them, you have a massive surge in how many people pick Lannisters and a massive use of the mountain that rides. And then there's always that token Brynden Outrider. And then there's nothing else.
Yeah.
So that's what it means. That's what including Kickstarter exclusives means.
I think the other interesting thing, if I can find what I'd found, I did make some notes on this time. It was something bizarre, like, oh yeah, that was it. The mountain that rides for the Team Super League has a really bizarre pick rate, right? When I say bizarre, either a player will pick him, and he actually appears in both. Like when he's picked, he usually appears in both lists. Now there is one person didn't take the mountain that rides in both lists, and that's because he took the mountain that rides and then a Gregor Commander list. So the mountain did appear in both lists, if not in the Kickstarter form.
Man the Rides has that problem, which is that between himself as a unit, a cavalry attachment, and then his infantry version as a commander and an infantry attachment, you have to weigh up the option of all four against each other. You're not just talking about whether or not you want to include him or not.
Yeah.
And yet still he massively outweighs all the other options pretty much as a unit by himself.
Yep. Now, one thing I will say though, on that same topic, we saw very few of his attachment. Very, very few of his mounted attachment. The mounted behemoth. Yeah. I also had a brief conversation the other day. Interesting fact. Gregor is one of the only characters in the entire game who appears more than once. More than twice. He's one of the few characters that appears more than twice. He's one of the few characters, of course, that appears more than 3 times. We know that Daenerys is coming in 2 more variants in the future. But do you know the only other character, if you disclude Brynden, of course, Brynden also appears 4 times. The only other character in the game that appears 4 times in one faction.
Jaime Lannister?
Yeah.
Jaime Lannister?
Yeah, it is. It's also Jorah Mormont. The infamous...
You got Jaime, you got attachment Jaime, Commander Jaime, you've got Kingsguard attachment Jaime, and you got Mame Jaime. You got Jorah Mormont, Commander Jorah, Unit Jorah, Jorah Infantry, Jorah other attachment infantry, smashing Mickey out the water here. Yeah. There's loads of them, Mickey. It's Jorah for days.
Jorah is
Jaime
the man.
For days, Gregor for days. And of them, like, Jaime never gets picked. Actually, that's the worst part. The worst part about Jaime is there are so many variants of him, and none of them.
The one that gets picked most is the Kingsguard variant inside the Kingsguard. I think Jorah's hilarious because Jorah is quite literally appears in everything Targaryen, and yet he's still one of the least picked pieces.
Yeah. You could sum up all of his variants, and he's still not picked very often. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that they've managed to. It's almost like they're so trying to balance them against each other, so that one doesn't always get picked over the other, that they've forgotten to balance it against all the other options that are out there.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, back to Mount the Rides. Mount the Rides, this weird dynamic. You either take him and you take him in both lists because I think, in my opinion, what it's showing is that people who think he's good think he is very good, and they rate him very highly. On the other flip side, though, people who don't rate him really don't rate him. They're like, I don't think my list is better including him. So,
or they didn't know he was included, which I still have a sneaking suspicion.
But I know you've got some statistics on mounting, stuff you've looked at. Did you want to throw those out here?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I was basically looking at tournaments that use him versus tournaments that don't, as like basically an option of like he's included or not. So I actually think it's more important to look at when he's included and when he's not included in list building options, as opposed to necessarily when he's included in a list, right? So just having the option to pick him, I think, is a very important factor. For me, that's because I think that one of the most important things about him is that he costs 4 points and is a combat unit, which is something that is not available to the Lannisters other than through the Mountain That Rides. So I think it is a very powerful list building option. And that's why I think he's so popular. As much because he's very strong, but also because of the list building options he brings. But here's like the headline stats, right? When you don't include Mountain That Rides, the Lannisters are picked 13% of the time. When you do include him, Lannisters are picked 26% of the time. Basically, just allowing the Mountain That Rides doubles the amount people will use Lannisters in a tournament. So that in itself is like, well, of course, that's going to massively increase the rate at which Lannisters win tournaments. So you have to include that in your knowledge that that will improve the Lannister win tournaments rate. If you look on the Hall of Champions, there are 3 tournaments that Lannisters have managed to win. One is a small local tournament, the very bottom one down there.
That was a test tournament.
And like in that kind of level, we know that any faction can win. The other 2 times that Lannisters have ever won a tournament, they included the Mountain That Rides. And I'm pretty sure both those lists include the Mountain That Rides in them. There is a 3rd tournament where the Mountain That Rides was allowed, and it was a small 5-man tournament, and he effectively won the tournament on all but a technicality. That's when the Border won the event based on a bye that he got in the last round. Now, that's clutching at straws. But anyway, point is that if you include him in a big event, he will almost without a doubt win the event. And if you don't, then Lannisters will do below par. And their win rate is 48% in tournaments without him and 61% in tournaments with him. He, as a single piece, changes their win rate by 14%, which is ludicrous. I have just today started properly testing the stats builder, being able to tell you win rates and pick rates of units. At the moment, it doesn't have all the data backdated, and you can't see it yet, but I can see it. It's still in the development environment. As he currently stands, the Mountain That Rides wins 80% of all his games. Nothing else we have recorded comes close to that at all. Even Walder and Varys are nowhere near that kind of win percentage.
Well, they're more like 550s, 60s, aren't they? That kind of ballpark.
Yeah. I think like the next best thing is at like 60-some%, and that's because it only has a few results. But like, yeah, I mean, all I can say is I don't think that he is ready for full release for 2 reasons. One, because he affects the faction that much, and 2, because when he's allowed, he is included in way too many lists. And that means that he's just not internally balanced yet. So I think he's neither externally balanced at the moment because he he's massively increasing the win rate. And he's not internally balanced either because as soon as you allow him, he's picked over everything else, which means that other things in Lannisters possibly need a little bit of an up and he needs to be brought down for him to be released.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So there you go. There you go, just slamming you with boring stats as always.
It is. No, it's not. It's actually quite interesting. I think in terms of like being the balance here, positive side of it, I do think that something like Gregor is required by Lannisters. Like, obviously it is. Lannisters are on the lower end of the performance scale without him. That doesn't mean they're massively underperforming, but I definitely think Gregor, in his current visage, could actually be releasable. He just needs taking from 11 down to 10, right?
Yeah, you could say that. I think what needs to happen for him to be released is when you release him, he can't be an auto include. I actually don't care that much about how much he affects the Lannister win rate. I care about if you release him, if he just becomes the very first 4 points I spend in every single list, then you're not improving my number of options, you're reducing my number of options. Because now I'm basically writing 36-point lists, always having him in. And that's what I always consider when I consider whether or not a unit is kind of well balanced or not. It's not necessarily about its win rate. It's whether or not it gives interesting list building choices. And his aren't interesting. It's for me, it's use him.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. All right then.
And yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see Gregor take on a giant. Sorry, a dragon.
I mean, that is actually true, right? Hopefully everyone can hear me now, okay, by the way. The thing is with dragons, obviously dragons coming out, dragons will melt things like Gregor completely. I do think that there might be an issue with dragons, maybe, depending on points cost. Obviously, I'm not going to say they're broken.
Well,
That would
who
be
knows?
wrong to do.
Who knows what they'll come in at?
If they come in at certain
They,
levels,
they look hard. They look hard to price at the moment. It really depends on like how well they combine with the rest of the cards, what else they bring, stuff like that. Like,
and ultimately, you know, it really depends on what the dragons do. If all the dragons
Yeah.
are similar, like we see, then I think it would be fairly reasonable. 8-9 points cost. Some people say more, but you know, I just don't see how you can justify them at more points in targets which already suffer.
Yeah.
Dragons are at 8. The kill just said it.
Yeah.
The dragons are at 8, and I know it.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Those
do.
people who said it at 7, I can't see it. I think 8 is right for me, but you know, like it's a hard one. It's a hard one. We don't actually balance the game. We just we just say when it's not balanced. we just throw stones from the outside and say, fix it.
All right, yeah. So yeah, we'll move on though. We'll move on from the Gnat Rides. We'll move on from dragons, although dragons are interesting.
Yeah.
And we are going to move into the next tournament. We'll actually talk about a tournament properly now, rather than just hype. And the tournament we've got to talk about is Gold on Dice. Gold on Dice. Where are we? Here we are.
The biggie, the Malta semi-person, semi-online event.
Yes.
Bit of an odd one.
Now,
but some big names in it.
Yeah.
Going slowly because of the dual format. It has quite slow rounds. So we're into the second round at the moment.
Yeah, we've only seen a couple of games played from round 2.
Yeah. So who's still unbeaten? Who's still in the running for what is the biggest prize ever put forward on one of these tournaments, as far as I can see?
I would just shout out to Sunday Slaughters here, good man. Also, big man Dom Knight, and Chris Baird, nice to see you here as well, buddy. Yes, so Rhaegar, I believe you are in chat. Rhaegar lost his second game. It's the only one of the second round to be played, and he lost to Chris Eustace, who you've played a couple of times, haven't you? In the UK.
Yeah, I've met him. I've not actually. Yeah, I've met Chris at UK events, two events, and neither time did I actually manage to come up against him.
So Sunday, we haven't yet
playing on international TTS stuff.
We haven't yet talked about the Northern Front tournament, which I'm sure Michael would love us to talk about in a minute, and we will get onto it. Skirmish at Twins. We will get onto that. It's next on my little list of things, which you can't see very well, but there we go.
Yeah, right, we're both sad. We both lost a game in that.
I'm not that sad because I lost to the best player in the world. So hey,
that's who I lost to.
I know. Right? So,
it's a fix.
On this point, we've got some big names. It's 2 names up in the running there, both with their first win. 2 names that I like to see: Stannis 1000th Lord Commander, and of course Van. Big up the humble onion smugglers.
There's our team, boys.
And also fan favorite Deoxys. I don't know if Deoxys is still there, but we love you, man. Just keep playing, keep winning games, keep just trolling and playing everything, and being awesome. But also names like Larks, Psychopath, Gushashu.
There's names. That's like
Yeah.
Yeah. And of
Um,
course, Gusha,
Gusha.
who just today or yesterday actually changed his name and will now be found on the player rankings as Viper.
anyone who
Uh,
knows,
so
anyone who knows
yeah.
Age of Empires, the Viper has been the world champion for goodness knows how many years now.
As long as anybody's ever known, the Viper is
Pretty
the
much.
goat. He is the Age of Empires 2 goat. So and I tell you what, Viper's making a good bet to be to be the TTS goat at the moment.
Hmm.
He's
He's
if you look at his record, it is impressive. He has lost one game ever in a tournament to the eventual tournament winner. He's recorded 24 games and he's won 23 of them. And he's not I'll speak for Mickey here and say he's not just taking on nobodies. He's beaten Mickey. He's beaten me twice. And he's beaten some other big names on the way. So I think I really do rate him as a good player. It's interesting that what's very interesting is that he is not known on Facebook. He is not known on the Discord. He is not known outside of his quality on A Song of Ice and Fire stats. And that's quite interesting to me because content creators and other people like that get a lot of attention based on just like their profile rather than their actual play. And I'm really glad to see a person who's otherwise unknown show that actually they're a really brilliant player from a region that has a very, very small number of players. As far as I know, he actually barely is able to play on the tabletop
I think he has a group of like
because he
3.
doesn't really have a club to play in.
Yeah, I think he's got
Yeah,
a
yeah,
group of like
he
3
plays
people.
a few other opponents, and that's it. But he's clearly very, very good, and that's kind of and it's brilliant that TTS and the site can allow people to find that out. And we'll see if he can continue to win against all the other top players, because I'd love to see him play against Larks, see him play against Deoxys, see him play against all the players in the top 10 and see how he fares.
So on that note, anyone who's watching, be that live or be that on the recorded afterwards, of course, if you want somebody good to practice against, if you want somebody good that you think you want to go and challenge, this is the man. If you go challenge this guy and beat him, right? Especially if he's playing his Starks and you play something like Targaryen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was playing Targaryens. This leading us on to skirmish at the Twins, believe it or not. I'm playing Targaryens and I got a narrow loss. I nearly beat him. I made a one big error and it just was enough to tip it in his favor. But really good opponent, very good game. And what I would say as well, if you can beat him, you will gain an absolute butt ton of ranking points. Like, yeah.
All there to win.
Yeah, the one big error was like, I'll have you know that this was a random faction tournament, so I didn't choose to play Targaryens. Although I did actually say to Michael when he drew the factions, I really hope I get Targs. So I don't know if he rigged it slightly.
Yeah, careful what you wish for, Mickey.
Yeah, I like Targaryens. I like them. Anyway, on that note, we will stop by and we will look at Skirmish of the Twins quickly. I know that a couple of people have been asking for it today. So where are we?
But for anybody who's wondering, when Mickey lost that game as a narrow defeat, using a faction which is very low ranked versus a player who's the current top ranked player in the world, using a high ranked faction, he was using Baratheons, I believe, who currently have a very good ranking actually. Mm-hmm. The system takes all of that into account, and I believe that Mickey ended up losing literally 4 or 5 points or something from his ranking.
Well, it was 1555 when I put the rankings in for the Team Super League, and I checked afterwards and on 1551. So I lost 4 points.
Exactly.
It wasn't risky for me.
Yeah. So the thing is the site has already worked out how likely it thinks that Gusha is, or the Viper is, to win that game, and it thought that he was very likely to win, so it didn't reward him for winning again, and really he needs to play against other really high-rated players to continue to grow his rating, and that's what the site's all about. But some people have said, like, oh, I don't want to submit my results against the same players that I play all the time because I always beat them. But like, basically, the system will come into balance, and that's what the ELO is all about. And it will all just find its leveling point. So on that game, Mickey had a ton to win and not a lot to lose.
Yeah.
And in reverse, Viper had everything on the line. Every game that he plays, he's looking to possibly lose a ton of points and only win a few. He has to continue to like win games, do well for him to stay in that number one spot, and it's constantly in flux. We saw that actually recently. Deoxys has lost some games and he's fallen quite quickly. I'm sure he'll come back again quite quickly. And all I'm saying is like, don't be afraid to submit results. The more you submit, the more it learns, and the better it is at predicting the outcome, and the better it is for everybody.
Definitely. And that's kind of like takeaway. If you really want to get your ranking up higher, challenge the better players, challenge them with bad factions. Go out there, play Targ, learn Targ, beat people with Targ, because you will rise through the rankings rapidly if you do that.
Play Night's Watch. Everybody's convinced that Night's Watch couldn't possibly have a ranking as bad as it is.
Yeah. Like, it's great, actually. Everyone's like, oh, the Night's Watch are bad, Why are the Night's Watch bad? Because they're not. And actually, it's brilliant, because we want more people playing Night's Watch to try and win with them, because if they win with them, they will see themselves go straight up. And
why do you think I really picked Night's Watch in in 3 Sales League? Because that's where you're going to get the best ranking. As an individual, you're going to get the best ranking by playing the lowest ranked factions.
Yeah.
I'm not just like being like, oh, I'm brilliant at this game, so I'll pick Night's Watch and still win. It's like, the least risky thing I can do is play Night's Watch because they're really low ranked, so it doesn't require me to win to get a decent ranking.
I mean,
and
also,
bring those war machines because they harsh.
Also, Senor Builder, come on.
El Senor, we'll see what he does.
Right. Okay then. So on the back of Skirmish at the Twins, we've reached how many rounds is this now? It's the end of round 3, which I think we've only got 1 or 2 games left. Well, it's quite a few games. Perhaps more games than I perhaps realised. 3 games left. And a couple of people still in the running. Currently,
Viper currently the only one who has got 3 out of 3 wins.
Yep. But big old Sunday Slaughter, he's there.
Yeah.
2 wins and a loss. Jamo, who is actually a really lovely guy from Australia. I think it's Australia. He's proper nice. I played against him in one of my earlier rounds. You and me in the 4th and 5th there. And also Wop and Jazzman. Jazzman's on about another Targaryen player. And Wop, who's playing Starks. Interestingly, the only Stark player to be on that same record.
Yeah. The Starks are doing pretty bad in the event in general. They're mostly down towards the bottom. There have been a few because of resignations. But yeah, it just shows that every faction can do well, and every faction can find itself at the bottom.
Definitely. All right then. So yeah, Skirmish at the Twins. If there's any questions about that, obviously we can tackle those.
So who else is in the running? We still got Tobo Mott, who I assume is going to be playing Furioku. They're both still unbeaten, I think.
I believe the result is actually in. Tobo Mott 4-0'd Furioku, and it looks like Furioku resigned.
Okay. So he resigned halfway through the game, I assume.
Well, if Tobo got 20 points worth of kills, I don't know what list Furioku was losing. But it's probably likely that Furioku probably lost most of his combat units and decided, right, that's it, I'll just throw in the towel. Which is fair.
So,
but yeah.
We see ourselves with Tobo versus Gushisher.
Probably, yeah. That'd be a good game. Neutral versus Bracken. Don't rate Tobo's chances there with neutrals.
No. I actually think that having played it myself, Gushisher's Viper. Sorry, I really don't know what name to call him now. It's all over the place. Viper's Courtney lists are both very strong. His Rose Knight one has obviously been doing well. How'd you tell if someone resigned? You can. They should say in brackets resigned if the button was clicked properly, which will make it default to a result. I think it should show in the rounds. If you look in the result history, then yeah, there you go. There's an example of it shows that he.
Yeah. How do we like 30 versus 40?
I like it. I've been enjoying it. I think actually there are some balance issues, which is I think that even more than at 40 points, 3 NCUs as a way to push your activation as high as possible is even more powerful. I think in general, high spamming activations is even more important, assuming you still play on a 4x4 board. Filling out as much space on the board and being able to fill the NCU board as much as possible seems even more important at 30.
One thing I noticed is that Targaryens really like the 30-point limit because the high maneuverability cavalry style lists, you have a lot more space to play with because the board is less full. But like we see at 40 points, but there's a slight caveat to that. At 30 points, NCU commanders are ever so increasingly strong.
Yeah. A whole free activation is so big at that level.
Yeah. But that being said, some game modes still... I won my second game, which I was losing. I was losing my second game, and I won it because I held the objective for enough turns with my commander. And I scored 2 points every turn. And the limit to scoring it being at 8 meant I could sacrifice units to slow the game down to outscore him. And so I was very much losing. If the game had played one more turn, I would have lost. Simple as that. There was no way I could have won, barring me just rolling constant 6s.
I think that the game, I really enjoy the game. It's fast. It's fast paced. Every action seems to matter a lot. There's nothing really going on. A lot of what happens at 40 points is like the first half of every turn is kind of delaying for like
alpha, right?
really important things that will happen in the second half of the turn. Whereas there's a lot less of that at 30 points. You have a lot less wastage. But I do think that it actually pushes it more extremely into like some lists are good and some lists are bad. Targs go against this thing of activation advantage being the pure thing because they suddenly have more space to play with. It makes you think that I think Targs would be significantly better at 40 points if you were playing on a 6x4. I think a lot of people can accept that Targs aren't great at smashing through the front. And they need the space to be able to get in and around the sides. But I still think that list, like Free Folk, who can just spam the board, NCU commanders all over the place, and like everybody just taking minimal cost units are very, very powerful. You can throw all of that in the bin, though, when you look at the fact that Gushasher is running 3 combat units, and they're not cheap ones. But he is running 3 NCUs in all of his lists, so...
And Varus, which is another kettlefish. Varus, which some good players will say Varus is not a good pick because you put yourself in Varus's hands. Gushashu says no, Varus is very strong. He forces your opponent to make decisions, and ultimately it comes down to you can't. With Varus in the game, you can't rely on certain things. But you also can't stop him. Like, there's nothing you can do to stop him using a token. So your best bet, it's a bit like counterplot, right? You set up a play which is there, knowing
to draw it out, right?
Yeah, knowing that if they've got it, they're going to stop you anyway.
Possible. But and it's about so playing Varus well is about understanding when to hold and when to use the tokens.
If you just provide it with every option,
and then some of luck, which is all what Counterplot is. Counterplot also has the added thing of being able to get itself a reroll, but effectively, Varus is Counterplot. He is 4 Counterplots whenever you want them in a different way. And yes, the weakness of Counterplot is that if you get baited into stopping the wrong tactics card, then you've let through another more powerful one. But with Varus, the difference is that you have 4 of them all game, so you know exactly when you're going to use them, and you're going to know that your opponent's always going to be playing some NCUs almost every round,
I think
except in a certain number of ones. But
the thing that really bugs me a lot is, and it's an element, it's an element of power thing. We won't dwell on this too long, but he completely shuts down most 3-point NCU replace effects, which it kind of really shafts lists a little bit, because you end up it's basically just an activation. Yes, you sometimes get the thing off, but something like Illyrio, really gets shafted by Varus, because you already, it's hard to use him.
He needs to be used with an almost guarantee at a certain time. It's going to be your whole turn is going to be built around getting that double activation.
Yeah, and the two start 3-pointers with 1 per abilities aren't replace effects.
Yeah,
they don't care.
And to just because of the question, to Daniel's question, currently 30-point lists, 40-point lists, 50-point games. If you want to submit a 60, 70, 80-point game, they are all the same as far as the site's concerned. It just looks at the crushing versus major versus minor, win, draw, whatever. At the moment, but it does record through the tournaments. It records what size the game was. Currently, we don't ask for casual games, shall we call them, or non-tournament games. We don't ask you what size the game was, but a tournament will record its results, and it will be another way that you can distinguish win rates in the future. But as for ELO ratings and stuff like that, they all have the same effect. I don't want to split the ELO ratings down anymore. That defeats the purpose of what an ELO rating is. It's a single headline number which can give you an overview of something's strength across the whole spectrum of how often it's used. It already includes, if 10% of all games are 30 points and 90% of them are 40 points, then it already accounts for the fact that most of the data is in 40 points and some of it's in 30 points, and it's representative of that. So they'll not be split as ELOs, but you can filter out the results when you look at a faction or a commander or something like that in the future, and you'll be able to look at it specifically at 30 points, 40 points. And as well with the builder, which is soon to have individual unit win rates, you will be able to filter by that. That will be all built into what size list you're building.
And it's on that topic, Carlo's been working on it. I've been in hand as well. We are actually converting all of the old data we've got to usable, analyzable data, which is, we are getting there.
It's up right now, right? We should, if you want to help, you can go to any of your old results and you can attach the list that you used in that result to the game. We've been going through and backdating all the tournament results because we have the lists that you used. But in general, any of the lists that are in your results history, you can attach your list to it. And that needs to be done through a list that's saved to your profile in the stats builder, because it needs to be in that very specific format for us to be able to then use it on the stats builder in future to give list building advice, which is currently in production and has some interesting trends coming out of it.
So on that topic, so this is a game that we played in the very first tournament that was run on the site. It was a test tournament, wasn't it, basically? We had a couple of guys from Scotland, likes of John Craig, who now runs the podcast. We're going to go visit him, aren't we, in October? Play a tournament up in Scotland.
Should be going to play a tournament up
there. But so here's a game that I've just selected here, and I know in that tournament I ran my Harmer list. It's my Harmer list. I always run it. So I can just hit my tournament Harmer list and add list. If you don't remember your list, obviously it's going to be difficult to do that, but we've got the tournament list still there. But there you can see it's then there, and I can hit that button there to go back and look at that list I used. There we go. That was the list I used.
Now anybody in the world can look at that game and can click on that link there and see what list Mickey used, and and that will be able to kind of help people when they're asking about list advice and stuff like that. We'll not only just be recording the lists in the Hall of Heroes, but you'll be able to see any result, what was played, and more importantly, we'll be able to make some cool stats by bringing all of that together and telling you. Like I say, I think the two important things when you consider a unit should be how often it wins. Everybody's obvious about that. But actually, I think what's super important is how often it's picked. Like that's super important to me, is how regularly things are picked. Because that indicates like what people think of a unit when they're picking it a lot. They think it's good, and sometimes the reality is that it doesn't actually win as much as they think it does. And some things that hardly ever get picked actually win loads, and that's where we can like learn some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's trying to get to. You know, this is supposed to be a tool which teaches me as much as it teaches anybody else. I'm really interested in seeing what kind of things come out. And that's why it's like the site's not opinion based. The site isn't my opinion. You know, sometimes these talks are, sometimes the articles I write are, but the site itself is based only on factual data, and I think that's what makes it useful.
Yeah. So as you can see here, I've just clicked through. I'm just making it right size for us. But I've clicked on a Stannis game versus Roderick the Reader. I believe this was his first game in the NRG event. And me and Carlo have done all of the Assault and River Run and NRG event games, haven't we? We've got more to do still. But I can click through here, and so I can look at Stannis' list he used in that game mode, and I can see, he used Axel and Double Law Faithful, the Bolton Flayer, some Wardens, Stormcrow Archer, brilliant, yeah, awesome. And I can say, what was his opponent's list? He ran Rob, and he ran, okay, cool, brilliant. So I can look back at the lists, and yeah, you can have a look at each game mode, and you can start analysing the games a lot more. You know, it's not quite the level of analysis you can do if the game was recorded, but it's not far off, is it?
Yeah, but hey, that should be up soon enough. Along with the TTS export, which hopefully, you know, is a matter of, it's not entirely in my control. You know, I'm working with Bartender on that one. So we'll see how soon we can get that one up. And then, you know, that will be a big step forward for the builder, and hopefully it will start to show what value it can have. Like I say, it's not just another builder.
No. Right, okay then. So we've looked at tournaments.
Sounds just ramble now, Mickey. Well, let's get us back on track. Let's talk about some tournaments, talk about some cool stuff.
So we are just going to do a very quick rundown of a load of tournaments real quick. They're all on the site, you know, all of this information's there. We don't see anything different to what you see. Yes, Carlo can go into his developer end at the back end, but you see the same things that we do on the site.
Yeah.
So we're just going to give you a really quick roundup to save you guys a job. Laughter is Poison to Fear we talked about with Brett the other week. We talked about Gold on Dice. So the Maritimes Random Army Tournament it has now ended. It was only 4 players that ended up entering, and it was good old Ariakas who obviously smashed it. But you know, it's still a tournament that was run in Eastern Canada, and players entered and players played and players enjoyed the tournament by the sounds of it. It was a small event, but it's starting to build a community up. So big shout out to the Maritimes area. Really hope they can keep pushing that.
I mean, from all experience I've seen from the outside, well, other than Canada not being a real country, Canada seems to have some really strong players and some really active members of the community. So it's really good to see them
Gruselug
playing on TTS. And
Big Man Gruselug is Canadian, and I like Gruselug.
Yeah,
he's a lad.
Yeah, exactly. Some big names there. Some big names who you never knew they were Canadian, because, you know, I mean, why would you?
They're too nice. Right, anyway, Oceania Cutthroats next up. This was a event that's run, I believe it's kind of Australian, and we can see the big man himself. He's in chat. It's Deoxys. He is absolutely smashing it. Death 1942, actually, he's a relatively decent player over in Australia as well. Slightly behind on UDs.
All right, relatively decent.
He is relatively decent. I beat him in Assault and River Run, but he did really well in Assault and River Run. He was a good player. But he's not Deoxys level good, is he?
Oh, Deoxys says he's dropped a game. Yeah,
yeah, technically he has.
Yeah, he's only got 7 points.
Yeah, but he's look. He may have played 3, but he's top of the table right now. We'll just big him up.
Okay, all right. We're just gonna pass that up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but obviously you've got other big names in there.
But he's playing the worst faction in the game, Night's Watch.
Yes. Don't Northern Front says don't scroll down. So if I just cover this thing here, I'll just cover this here. No. But no, like all of these names, I've heard of most of them. I think so. If we look at it,
Yeah,
Porphysius, Mikista, Fire and Blood, Jamo, J-Gyp, Spleen, Midnight, Tobo, Deborder, Dark Angel, Hashiman, Death, Deoxys I've seen in other tournaments or in the Team Super League. KP is the only name on that list I've never seen. So he's perhaps a new
and
player.
I recognize it. I think I'm
There
pretty
you
sure
go.
he's. I believe he played in the NRG event or something like that.
So
I
these are
don't know.
all
It's hard. It's hard.
players.
There's too many players. But
These
Deoxy
are
says
all
we should take a
players.
look at the second list. Let's
Oh,
have a
right.
look. We're talking about Othel. He says there's plenty of meme-worthy lists in there.
I'm out. I'm not
What
having
we got?
that. I'm not having that second author list. That is 20 points. 20 points
Yep.
on stone throws.
Is this a 30-point list? Yeah.
He is like
Oh, rough.
like me and Carlo love a good meme. Me and Carlo love memeing around, but Deoxys, this is a meme too far.
Yeah. Once you gone too far, man. You don't know where the line is. You crossed it. It's way back there. No, it's really great to see how much the Australian community like how competitive they are, how much they play together, and it's brilliant because things are not that easy in the rest of the world, at the moment, and I'm really glad that the Australian community's doing well.
I actually think, like, in all fairness, I don't know enough about some of the other communities. I know the German community is pretty big. I know the and close as well. I know they do a lot of stuff as well. I know the French community's got some areas which play quite well together, quite close. But I actually wanted to say this is a big shout out to, of course, Michael Kerr, West Coast Northern Front in chat today, and the likes of Deoxys. The Australian scene at the moment seems to be a very tight knit group, well communicated, brilliant bunch of players. I've never met a member from that community who has been like difficult to play against or hard. There's an 8-hour time difference between me and I think Deborder, or like a 12-hour difference with some of the others. They are absolutely solid players. So I just wanted to be a big shout out to Michael Kerr and Midnight as well. I know he does a lot there, but the Northern Front community, because I think that they are brilliant. I think they are absolutely solid. So, yeah.
If you could just do it a solid and stop playing weird 35-point games.
Yeah, weirdo.
Because I don't know how to code that. That's too much.
Yeah,
please just stick to 30 or 40. Like God.
Man only does really basic things. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what's half of 35? Come on. Yeah, I'll take 32. I'll take 32. At least that's 16.
Right. Okay. So, moving on. Song of Wolf and Bears This is a bizarre one because they've got the big Malta tournament on. This is a local Malta tournament, so they really are trying to grow the scene. And it's won by a free float player, Silent Death, who has appeared on some TTS stuff as well. Yeah, little tournament, sure, but still a worthwhile
10-man physical tournament right now is a brilliant thing, and it shows you just how strong the Malta community is, and why they've been running their Gold on Dice event, and why they've decided to invite people through TTS, because they got a real competitive scene there who want to do some big things, and that's absolutely brilliant. And I'm really glad that they managed to get together and have a physical event too. And that they chose to run it through the site. It's all great, and really interesting to see the results coming out of that, because guess not surprising, they conform to the meta as everybody else does, which is free folk winner, free folk strong.
Again, following off what we just said about Australian sites, it's really nice to see communities using the site and actually seeing the different communities develop. I think it's brilliant, and we get to see that in the snapshot in the site, which we don't get to see in other ways potentially. Mark in chat, you're playing against Aussies next week. Good luck. They're not very good. They don't win very many games, especially that Doxys guy. And I'm sure you'll be fine. Right. This little French tournament. Oh, this is the one that didn't go ahead, wasn't it?
Greg, you are not a bad player if you can't beat a 6 Raider 3 Trappers list. That is a tough bet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Fire and Blood's a different question, but that's the old free folk weakness. Get them right in the fire and the blood.
So we also we don't actually have the numbers on this because ORG Bill only ran the tournament yesterday. I believe it was a physical tournament in Berkeley, in America. We don't have any results yet. We don't have the stuff, so he's going to submit them post, which is something that if you guys want to run physical tournaments, we'd rather you use the site live. Obviously, it will arrange everything for you. But if you can't for whatever reason, or there's other issues involved with that, let us know, and we can posthumously put the results online, so at least you can still represent the tournament.
It has been built that way.
Yeah.
We can. It can be backdated, and also you'll see that most of these players are actually registered as I forget what wording I even used, unclaimed. Mm-hmm. So these players have been registered by the TO. They have had their accounts automatically made for them. If they now want to claim those accounts, they can message me, and I can link their account to their new profile. But players don't have to have an account before the tournament for you to be able to do that as a TO, but be aware that those players will not be able to use those results until they kind of come and claim the account, claim the profile. And also they can't be integrated together. So if they already have a profile, you need to use their proper profile. So just to make everybody aware of that, if somebody hasn't signed up on the day, you can sign them up and they can come and get the account back later. So that all can happen, but it's better for everybody if they do sign up beforehand.
Yeah. But there you go. So again, something that we've been working on, something Carlo's been putting a lot of work into, trying to make the experience a lot better for TOs. That's why we're the builder after all. And just generally trying to ease the whole system. So again, works posthumous. I can't even say it. I can't say it. Right.
Humorously.
Posthumous.
Maybe
it's not posthumously, is it? That's
isn't that after death, Mickey?
Well, yeah, but the tournaments died at the end, right? That's the theory I'm going for. But it's posthumous.
Oh well.
I can't say it right.
Yeah, well,
So it's
alive enough, Mickey.
Let's move on. So that was the Forever Sir Friend Zone tournament. RIP. 3-Star Super League we've already talked about. It's pretty rubbish. There's no one good in it. Wolves Howling. I'm saying a lot of that. This is a tournament that's being run by Marsara, which is one of Furioku's accounts. He's getting people to sign up for that. Now that is going to be a posthumously.
Oh God, can we just move on?
Right.
Can we just move on? We can't say the word, Mickey.
Thank you.
If you're looking to sign up for a tournament, this is the one. This is a TTS event. It's currently got 5 people in, and Furioku Marsara, he's giving away the prize that he won in a different TTS event. He's giving it away as part of this, so he's just kind of passing it on rather than collecting it himself. So no entry fee. He's looking to get lots of players in, so there'll be a banner going up for that soon enough, and you got about a couple of weeks to sign up. There's not many names in the hat at the moment. He hasn't advertised it that much. But if you've got the time and you're looking for an event, then Wolves Howling, great tournament to get involved in. I'm probably going to sign up. I think see if I can find the time between that and the Super League. But
it's a £70.
Why not?
£70 voucher, I guess I'd call it, from Boards and Swords, which is a store in the UK. But £70 off some stuff. So yeah.
What should Deoxys play? He should play neutrals, right?
Yeah. Hang on. Let me just look at a good faction.
Should he play Vargo?
No, legit. Deoxys, can you please play a neutral Vargo list? Please.
There
I don't know what your second list is.
Done.
Oh, I love that man. I love him.
Yeah.
He says no.
Okay. I think he's saying no to. I think he's saying no to Vargo, but yes to neutrals.
I really want to see you run a Vargo list. I think you can do it. That means you don't have to run.
All right. Here's your actual challenge. I was looking at some of the stats the other day, just today on the builder that I've managed to bring out. So I'm starting to look at unit win rates. We haven't backdated all the information. So if you have some other information that you know that this is wrong, then maybe, I'm sure somebody must have won somewhere. But as it stands, Mummers have never, ever won a game on the site. If you could
Skirmishes, right?
play
Mama
Mama's
skirmishes.
unit and win, I will be impressed.
Is that Mama skirmishes?
Yeah, sorry, Bloody Mama Skirmishes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
not got a win to their name,
I
and
have
they have
lost
been
as
played.
horses.
They have been played.
Yeah, I've definitely lost as horses, but skirmishes. See, there you go, Doxy's right. He's done
Yeah,
it. He's won with them once.
prove it. Prove
Prove it
it.
again.
Do it again.
Jamie Commander lies.
Oh,
Right. All of the other ones. So
what a combo.
the Brussels tournament, the one in Belgium, is building up. This is a Belgium league. Again, so not really
Great
very
stuff.
applicable to many people here. But it is part of a building Brussels league they're going to have in Belgium. So yeah, if you're in that area, get yourself involved, and I'm sure you can get that started in early September. And all the other stuff we've talked about before, we've got a massive French tournament, I believe, arranged for next year.
Yeah, it's not up on the site yet, so we'll see what. Oh, right.
And
Sorry,
yeah,
that one.
on this one,
Yeah.
this one's starting to build a little bit of momentum, but they've only really just put it up recently. But it's going to be a big event, and of course Adepticon, which is lurking. Still no updates, but 2 days, 128 spots, 40 points of legal armies. We'll see if Mr. Clean decides to add to that. Right then, Carlo, that is it from tournaments. That is it from the tournaments on the site. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about today? Is there anything kind of like...
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, it's almost like you think that there is something to talk about. You're always leading me into these things. I've
Yeah,
actually got the answer for once. I've actually
Yes.
got the answer, which is we're going to run another tournament because there aren't enough tournaments. You want some tournaments with your tournaments?
I heard you want more tournaments, bro.
Yeah, exactly. This one's a little bit different, as they all have been. Always setting a new trend. No, so this one is is set to kind of reward the players who've been playing a lot, submitting a lot, and really using the site the way I always hoped it would be. And we are going to run basically a top 16 TTS international event. I have reached out to the first 8 players who have been invited. So this is effectively like a Masters Invitational event. I've reached out to the first 8 players who've had their invite. Can you hear me? Am I?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I've got a big old loading thing on my screen.
Hey.
How long do you have? Yeah, that's the exact question. The tournament will go live after Gold on Dice because a lot of the top 8 are in that event too. And between Gold on Dice and the Super League and stuff like that, I don't want to have too much stuff going on. So we're basically looking at a start date of start of October.
Mm-hmm.
So we've invited 8 of the 16 players. In about 2 weeks' time, I will invite another 4 top-ranked players who are not those 8. So whoever's got the 4 highest-ranked players who aren't already in the tournament will make us to 12, and then give us another couple of weeks, and then we'll add 4 more players. So you've got as much time as you need to get into the top 16, and what better way to do it than to kind of challenge these top-ranked players, because that's how you will get big ranking improvements. If you can prove that you can beat these players in the build up to it, then you will get yourself a spot. And then all you got to do is beat them on the day in the tournament. So, if you think that you've got what it takes to win in the best of the best, then definitely be in this tournament, because I think that, George sitting in at 17,
17th.
things might be about to hot up.
I'm going to have to challenge him and beat
him. Luckily, George, I won't be competing, so you're actually in 16. So let's see if you can hold your spots.
So right now we're looking at. So these are the players currently looking at. I'll just read them out just so people can see. But you can go on the website, find them out yourself, of course. But people like Gushashu or Viper, Larks, Ariakas, Furioku, Deoxys, big man, Stannis, yes, Psychopath, Brett, Crag, DeBorder, Mahoney's Law, Viking, Tony, Lorraine, I believe his old name was. Furioku, who of course actually it's Furioku's second account. So Furioku, there's another spot opened up. Topo Mott, Khan Artist, so that'll be Open City, and believe it or not, the big man, Euron Greyjoy, who I believe is also in chat. He actually makes it into the top 16, just at the moment. So Bloodraven. Bloodraven was
So
about.
your next cutoff is roughly being in the top 12-ish. If you're roughly in the top 12 in about 2 weeks, maybe
Yep.
3 weeks, I haven't actually put an official date on it, then you will be getting your invite then. And then if not, then you want to be in the top 16 come the come whenever. Either that or really hope that somebody else up above you can't make it, because that will free up a spot. It will be the 16 highest rated players at various points throughout the next few weeks, and we'll have a real high level competition and really see who's best of the best. Because, like I say, it's not so much about how many players you get to enter a tournament. It's about how high a quality of player can we get, and how high quality play can we promote, and can we make some really close competitive games.
This is the.
What's the bet on half of everybody using Starks?
I know, right? This is actually the closest thing that we are going to get, at least for now, to a form of cross meta, or call it international champion. The NRG obviously crowned Ariakas as a first international champion, but that was from a real mix of players who were not necessarily the best of the best. Now I freely admit that I would not be in that category, not the best of the best, but you can have a chance to get yourself into the best of the best and play in an equivalent invitational tournament, and anyone can do it. Right? Anyone can do it. Just go out there, prove that you are a good player, get that ranking up, beat people like Gushisha, beat Stannis, beat Deoxys, although he's not too hard to beat, I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Beat Ariakas.
I mean, Viper proves that like he's in a place where there's very little tabletop play. Nobody's ever heard of him. Not a big presence on any of these other things, but his play speaks for itself. His record speaks for itself. He is winning games against other players continuously, and so he deserves to be there.
Yeah. So look out for that. Look out for that in October. We will be ensuring that we follow it very closely, and advertising it as much as we can, and really building the hype up to that, of course. But between now and then, we've got the Team Super League, and that is going to be the biggest hype we've got so far going. So I think with that, I think we're finished. Nothing else I want to talk about.
Nope.
So keep submitting your games, right? Keep submitting your games.
Yes, and your builder, whoever gets drawn against him, because he's coming for you. He's a coming for you.
Keep submitting games, guys. It's really important that you keep submitting games. There's our
keep playing games. Keep playing games. Keep submitting games. It's super important to the site, like Mickey says. That, like I say, we stay, we do a ton of work, and all we want from you is your submissions.
And definitely, even if it's just a casual game, just put it in. Practice games. If you really are testing lists where you're not really playing the games out, you're just like trying an intro or something like that. Yeah, fair enough. You don't have to submit those. But if you're playing a game against somebody, if you're using a 2-list format, even a 1-list format, just submit it. It's more data we can go on. And as the Three-Eyed Raven says, be for better. #be for better. And we will catch you next week.